Hi, this is Chris Murray, assignment 3.6, Ethics and Society Reflection. I'm doing option 1, San Bruno pipeline explosion. So, PG&E faced 11 counts of pipeline safety violations as a result of their failure to research and evaluate potential gas line threats, and their deliberate and intentional misclassification of a gas line as high risk. The damage was significant. 8 people killed and 38 homes destroyed because of the explosion. In lieu of this, 0 PG&E employees were charged and/or came near prison sentences for gross and deliberate negligence. Quote, "Nobody at PG&E is a criminal," PG&E attorney Stephen Bauer said. The company deliberately misclassified pipelines as a shortcut, avoiding appropriate testing to save time and money. The motive was profits over safety, quote, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Shank said. And this statement is absolutely correct. PG&E engineers broke the following engineering code of ethics: 1 and 3, rules of practice, and professional obligations 1, 2, 3, and 8, leading up to the disaster. I will dive deeper into each ethics violation throughout the video. So, PG&E provided false information to investigators about max pressure policies. PG&E knowingly relied on erroneous and incomplete information to avoid inspections which would have caught a badly manufactured seam weld on the gas transmission line and saved San Bruno from disaster. There are 2 major red flags here. Firstly, the company took cost-cutting measures to skip an integral pipe pressure test used to detect seam and welding failure. Instead, PG&E opted to use a test which only detected pipe corrosion, and quickly labeled the pipeline as safe to use. The second and more major of the 2 red flags is that PG&E lost track of many of its pipeline records, including the San Bruno pipeline, when it transitioned from paper documents to a computerized system starting in the 90s. According to the indictment, PG&E knew when the system was created that its database contained incomplete and erroneous info. Quote, "These 2 red flags put PG&E under fire for the Engineering Code of Ethics Rules Practice 1 regarding public safety and health, and Rules of Practice 3 regarding objective truth and company openness. In addition, PG&E created a policy in 2004 ordering its engineers to make critical decisions about its pipeline based only on information readily available. This means an engineer could decide a pipe such as San Bruno pipeline was safe to use even without having proper knowledge of the pipe. 2 of the counts brought against PG&E are for failing to identify risks to its pipeline and develop plans to deal with them. On the Engineering Code of Ethics, this hits the company under the rules of Practice 1 and 3, and the engineers under personal obligations 1, 2, 3, and 8. The engineers who worked on this project held a lack of honesty and integrity, forethought, and motivation to serve public interest, deceiving the public and using the company as a cloak covering unethical acts. And that's in a sense because no single person was charged, and the company as a whole took all of the damages and the blame instead of any persons. Nobody was given any jail sentence or money fines. It was all sent to the company. They decided to settle for corrosion pipe testing and continued to push forward on pipe usage despite a lack of pipeline paperwork. In 2003, PG&E attempted to avoid mandatory water tests, which would have discovered the welding and seam errors. And they did this by inflating their maximum water pressure usage limit. The company was avoiding a federal law which mandated water tests if a line exceeded its legal maximum. This led to situations with the pipe being pushed past its limits to a point it would normally be tested for potential damage to the pipe. Because a new higher limit was set, the company legally did not need to test the pipes, and so they didn't. They saved money and time, and they opted to put the public in potential danger, but they didn't care. They were just not going to test it because their new limits were higher. These actions broke the Engineering Code of Ethics Rules of Practice 1 and 3 for their public safety and health concerns and lack of objective truth and company openness. and it broke the professional obligations 1, 2, and 3 for lacking honesty, integrity, serving public interest, and deceiving the public through the workers themselves who did these actions. The inflated pipe pressure limits set by PG&E engineers endangered public safety and health and lacked any objective truth, honesty, and integrity. It put people in danger, literally killing people, and destroyed a large amount of land, property, and resources. The indictment says PG&E committed similar violations on a pipeline in Watsonville and one running from Fremont to Hayward, which fortunately never failed, but still were violations. Another one of the reasons the disaster took place is because of the makeup of the pipe. The San Bruno pipe section was constructed from small pipe sections welded together called pups. These small segments of pipe are cut-offs from 30-inch transmission pipe that had failed pressure tests straight out of the factory. So, right off the bat, the pipes were untrustworthy. Doug Chisholm, a Virginia consultant with 30 years of experience in the pipeline industry, said, quote, "As a practice, I think any pipe section that fails a pressure test should be scraped altogether." Quote. Following Doug's expertise and guidance, the engineering decisions when the San Bruno pipe was first installed absolutely fall short of the engineering code of ethics. The rule of practice 1 are broken for the given public safety and health concern, and the professional obligations 1, 2, and 3 are broken for lack of honesty and integrity, a disservice to the public interest, and thirdly, for deceiving public, making them think the pipe was safe, which clearly it was not. According to the indictment, PG&E repeatedly violated the Federal Pipeline Safety Act, which requires accurate gas pipe record keeping, and routine hazard risk identification and inspections when pipe pressures exceed the legal maximum. Over the pipe's 54-year lifespan, PG&E never properly inspected the pipe's welds or seams, and that's crazy. The whole time, this problem, that the reason it blew up, was never investigated. It was never aware to the people working. In fact, because of lost records, people at the company assumed that there were no welds or seams at all. The Code of Ethics Rules of Practice 1 and 3 were broken once again, seeing safety concerns and a lack of company openness and straightforwardness. This issue was supposedly solvable through a coded document which led to the details of the pipeline. If someone had, this is a quote, "if someone had actually taken the document, looked up the material code, they would have said this is a welded pipe," quote, Facet said. So there was a document lost in PG&E's records that described the type of pipe they were dealing with. The problem is nobody looked hard enough for it. More PG&E's money saving bad habits. Before the San Bruno pipeline explosion, an internal document details the company's Pacific Gas and Electric Co., suggesting downgrading 2,300 plus natural gas leaks, potentially with no fix, to save the company $5 million. More information backs this up from a pipeline leak database used by PG&E engineers and managers. The company has reportedly been downgrading leaks for years. Downgrading leaks, while in a few cases innocent and acceptable, is a sign of cost-saving measures when seen on this scale, and not acceptable. The issue breaks the Engineering Code of Ethics Rules of Practice 1 and Professional Obligation 3 in its misleading of public safety concerns and disregarding safety fixes to save money. Other explosions have been linked to these downgrades, for example, the 2008 home in Rancho Cordova, Sacramento City, and Cupertino condominium, which blew up after seeing grade 2 leaks months before. So these are leaks that were seen as oh, we only need to measure it, but it ended up blowing up. So, a huge failure, and luckily in Cupertino, nobody was in the condo and nobody got hurt, but massive failure and massive knocks against the code of ethics here, not following through with safety guidelines and all that. So fortunately, as soon as this problem was brought to senior management's attention, company officials suspended the downgrading of gas leaks based on trends and percentages. Quote, because of concern that local supervision might assume that it was appropriate to use the report to downgrade leaks without proper review and final investigation, quote, spoke PG&E spokesman David Eisenhower. So he was saying that, like, he agreed that, these shouldn't be downgraded, and to keep people from doing it in the future, he suspended this operation, this procedure. Although the company moved to stop the hazardous downgrades, the code of ethics was still violated. The rules of practice 1 and 3 were broken because of public safety and health concerns. Because of the explosion and lack of objective truth and company openness about downgrades, because of the misclassification of the leak, and professional obligations 1, 2, and 3 for lacking honesty, integrity, disserving public interest, and deceiving the public. So, to conclude, it is important to look at the outcome. People died and nobody was personally charged with a crime. PG&E as a whole definitely took the blame that should have been set to specific people. Most all of the fundamental canons, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, were broken. These were hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public, broken. Issue public statements only in an objective and truthful manner, broken. Act for each employer or client as faithful agents or trustees, broken. Avoid deceptive acts, broken. And conduct themselves honorably, responsibly, ethically, lawfully, so as to enhance the honor, reputation, and usefulness of the profession, broken. All of these rules were broken, and failures happened and lives were lost as a cause of it. Lives, property, land, terrible things. Engineers, managers, supervisors, and inspectors all share blame for the incident. This addresses the Engineering Code of Ethics Professional Obligations number 8. B. Saying, don't use company as cloak covering unethical acts. I believe people should be held more accountable in situations like this than the company as a whole. Obviously, these are complex situations, and not everything is black and white. But nobody even being named in a charge seems insulting to the families of those who lost people in the accident. Thank you.